Hello, everyone. It's Stephen Whiteside here from theuptrend.com with this weekend's edition of Protect Your Portfolio. Well, week 26 has come and gone, and now we're coming up to a holiday shortened week. We've got Canada Day on Tuesday, which closes the Canadian market. And then we've got the July 4th Independence Day on Friday, which closes the U.S. market. So we're not going to be open all week. We're going to do Monday is going to be a regular day for us. We'll be back on Wednesday night to do charts and Thursday morning to do a video. And then Saturday we'll be back and we'll do a complete weekend update. Now, as we are coming up to month end and the end of the quarter and the holidays that we have this week, those three things together usually have quite a bullish bias to them. The trading should be rather quiet this week, so we're expecting a quiet week on the bullish side. Now, when we look at the seasonality chart for the VIX, we were expecting the VIX to spike during the month of June and then at the end of June to sell off into the month of July. So we're expecting July to be a fairly strong month for the market. Now, there's the daily chart of the VIX, and we did get a buy signal, but we really didn't get fall through to the upside. And you can see all the dots turn blue here. So that was a negative period for the market. We were expecting something a lot more like that we saw back in April in the month of June than what we got. So a very muted VIX. We did get a buy signal. We did get a lot of sell signals, but the market has come back and is currently making all-time highs. Now, earlier in the month, we talked about the strong seasonality trade, which is to buy the market at the end of June, then sell it towards the end of July. It's usually a pretty reliable trade. Now, when a trade is 100%, that doesn't mean that it makes a lot of money. And it also doesn't show all the activity that goes on between the first date and the last date. Now, seasonal trades can be very attractive to some people because some people like to be right more than they like making a lot of money. And in this example, let's just take one. So there's the NASDAQ 100 E-mini, the March contract. So that would be March 2026. You buy on June 30th and you hold it to July 30th. And we usually make money 100% of the time. So more than likely this trade is going to work out. And in people's imagination, the trade looks something like this. You buy on June 30th, you sell on July 30th, and you're a winner. The problem is that during that period, you could see a huge move down in the market. So the seasonal trade, just that stat of being right 100% of the time, does not tell you how much drawdown you have to endure to get to July 30th. And it also doesn't tell you how much money you're leaving on the table because the market could move up sharply during the month and then pull back. And as long as it ends the month higher than what you bought it at on June 30th, then you're a winner. So just remember that seasonal trades are not from point A to point B. They can often take detours either to the upside or to the downside. Moving on, looking at the VIX or the fear index and coming into Monday's trading action, looking at a daily chart of the VIX, we need to close above 1947 on Monday to tell us that options traders are getting spooked. If that doesn't happen, of course, that upper channel line is going to continue to move lower daily. Now, looking at a daily flypaper channel chart of the VIX, notice that the last two times that the VIX moved up in the month of May and the month of June, we did not break out above the flypaper channel. So that'll be a tell, telling us that options traders have moved into a different level of fear if the VIX starts popping out above the flypaper channel next time around. Now, looking at a weekly chart of the VIX, we need to close this coming Thursday at 4 p.m. Remember, the market's going to be closed on Friday. We need to close on Thursday above 2504 to give us a weekly buy signal. And that, of course, would be negative for stocks on a long-term basis if that were to happen. Next up, let's take a look at the U.S. market. And we had quite an impressive move up this week. We've hit new all-time highs for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. Now, the first thing I do is I bring up the weekly panic zone charts and I scan through and I'm looking for new early warning signals up there at the top of the screen. And we did not have any this week. The next thing I do is I look for any bearish or bullish reversal signals. And for the energy sector, not only did we get a bearish reversal signal, but we also got a double top signal. So This week's high matched last week's high, and then we reversed. And so those are two negative signs. We also closed below the previous week's low. And so all of that is negative across the board. We're down over 4% on the week. Still trading in the middle of the channel, so we still need continuation to the downside before we see a weekly sell signal. Now, a month ago, we got a bearish reversal signal in the GDX, and the next week we tried to break out above that high and couldn't do it. And then for the last 2 weeks, we've closed lower. So we're still on a buy signal here, no change in trend just yet, but some weakness in the gold sector. Now, 3 weeks ago, we had bearish reversal signals for some of the major indices, including the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. Those signals have now been nullified as we have closed above that high, making new all-time highs. Now, here's some price targets to keep an eye on during the month of July. If we continue to move higher from here, the Dow is stuck at 437.50. We closed at 438 on Friday. If we move up from here, then 453.15 is our next target to the upside. And we did not hit that target back in October. And so we'll look to see if we can hit it this time around. Looking at the S&P 500, we're looking for a move up to 625. If we take that out, then 656.25 is our next target. For the NASDAQ 100, we certainly traded above the 531.25 level. We haven't broken away from that level just yet. We're still attached to it, but our next target is 562.50. Then for the Russell 2000, again, we're still stuck to the price target of 212.50. If we can continue to move higher from here, 225 is our next target. For the financials, we're looking for a move up to 53.13. We did not get there earlier in the year, so that would be a new all-time high for the financials. Now, bank stocks are still stuck at 56.25. You can certainly see that we traded up to 62.50 back in the fall of 2024. So that is certainly a legitimate target to the upside if we keep going from here. Then looking at the semiconductors, and we're looking at the SMH, we traded up to the 281.25 level, got as high as 280.50, so just 75 cents away from our target. If we can take that target out, then 312.50 would be our next target to the upside. Notice that this is where we peaked back last summer, and so we will have to see if we can take out the high from last summer and create a new all-time high for this particular ETF. Now, moving on to the Canadian market, the Canadian market has held up quite well, even though we've seen some selling in the commodities over the past couple of weeks, especially crude oil. Last week at this time, we had an early warning signal in several of the major Canadian index ETFs. Up there at the top of the screen, we also had a bearish reversal week last week. Now, what happened? Well, we played through those signals, and the TSX and the TSX 60 both made new highs this week. There is the iShares for the TSX 60. We're trying to hit 40.63. That's the top of our current projected trading range. Of course, if we start breaking out above that, then we'll project higher prices, but this is as high as we're currently projecting based on the previous trading action. For the Vanguard Canada ETF, we had an inside week this week, and now we're looking to see if we can take out the previous week's high. That would take us up to 56.25. There is the iShares World ETF, so this is without Canada. We're trying to get to 46.88. There's the small cap ETF. We're trying to get to $25. If we can take out last week's high, that would take us up to 25. For the venture exchange, and of course, we're not trading the venture exchange, but the market is much healthier and happier when this index is trading higher, and looking for move up to 750 is our next target. Now, there's the big reversal in the energy sector that we saw in the U.S. market as well. And again, we came down hard, and we certainly closed below the previous week's low, so that's bearish. And we're still on a buy signal here. We'll have to see if things stabilize in the energy sector in the coming week. Now, looking at financials, we're trying to get to 65.63. For the bank sector, we've run up to the 45.31 level. Now we're trying to get to 46.88. Then looking at the global gold index, small pullback this week, 4.29%, which is not a big deal for this sector. Trying to get to 34.38 if we can keep going higher. And as you can see, we've pulled back into the channel. So if we continue to move lower this week, we're looking for a close on Friday below 29.20 to give us a sell signal. And then looking at the tech sector, we're still stuck to the 68.75 level. If we can continue higher from here, then $75 is our next target. And we've already been up at that level in 2025. Now, looking at the world of commodities, there's the huge amount of volatility that we saw in the price of crude oil this week, ending the week down over 11% and back in the channel. So, still on a weekly buy signal. No change in trend for natural gas, down 4.53% on the week. We do have copper back on a buy signal as of Friday's close, joining copper miners already on a buy signal. Then the world of gold is down nearly $100 on the week, $98.10. We need to close this week below $3,243.80 to give us a new weekly sell signal. There's platinum making a new high for the week, up 6%. And there's silver. Silver basically unchanged on the week, so no change in trend there. Now, it would be nice to tell you that this is going to be a quiet summer and July is going to be very bullish and we're going to have a nice big summer rally. But unfortunately, with Donald Trump in the White House, the chance of a black swan event happening at any moment is certainly possible. Now, if we look at the price chart of the US dollar index, you can see that we continue to crater here. And since Trump took office, the US dollar index has been sliding. That should be good for U.S. exports and export of not only goods but services around the world. And unfortunately, that's not what's happening. The trade deficit that Trump wants to fight with tariffs continues to increase, even though he's put tariffs on all these products. So things aren't working out the way that some people were expecting them to. But yeah, with the US dollar falling in value, then other currencies around the world are starting to increase in value. Okay, folks, that is all for this weekend's presentation. Stock index futures and commodities have started to trade on Sunday night. Stock index futures currently up slightly. Dow futures currently up 120 points, while gold's down $10 and crude oil is down 50 cents on Sunday evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Next time you'll hear my voice, if you're listening to us during the week, is on Monday morning. Otherwise, we'll talk to you this time next weekend.